There's a question that haunts you in the middle of the night, the one that wakes you at 3 in the morning with your heart racing and your mind spinning in circles. Is he really your twin flame? Or are you loving a phantom, projecting onto another human being a recognition that exists only in the architecture of your own longing? You've felt the connection, that undeniable pull that defies every rational explanation, that moment when your eyes met and something ancient stirred inside you, as if every cell in your body suddenly remembered something your conscious mind had forgotten. But now you're standing in the uncertainty, holding this overwhelming feeling in one hand and the lack of confirmation in the other, and the weight of not knowing is becoming unbearable. This isn't just about wanting clarity. This is about your soul demanding truth in a world that offers 1,000 counterfeits of the real thing. You've read the articles, watched the videos, studied the signs, and yes, many of them match what you're experiencing. But there's still that whisper of doubt, that quiet voice asking whether you're seeing what's actually there or only what you desperately want to see. And maybe that doubt is eating you alive because you've already given so much of yourself to this connection, already reorganized your entire internal world around the possibility that this person is who your soul has been searching for across lifetimes. Carl Jung spent decades studying what he called synchronicity and the collective unconscious, and he discovered something that will completely reframe how you understand twin flame connections. He found that the universe doesn't just randomly assign soul connections. There's a precise mechanism, a specific test that operates with surgical precision to determine not only whether someone is your twin flame, but whether you're ready to know that truth. Because here's what almost no one tells you about twin flames. The universe will not confirm this connection until both souls have developed the psychological and spiritual maturity to handle what that confirmation means. This isn't cruelty. This is cosmic intelligence. Jung understood that when two people are confirmed as twin flames and both become consciously aware of this truth, they gain access to levels of reality creation, energetic influence, and synchronistic manifestation that can be dangerous in the hands of immature souls. They become capable of affecting each other across any distance, of intuiting information that transcends normal sensory channels, of co-creating with an intensity that can either elevate them both or destroy them both. The universe must be absolutely certain that you're ready for this kind of power before it hands you the keys. So if you're asking whether he's your twin flame, understand that you're not just asking for information. You're asking whether you've passed the test that determines if you're ready to receive that information. And that test, the one Jung documented through decades of clinical observation and personal experience, is so subtle that most people don't even realize they're being evaluated. But if you're here, if something led you to this exact video at this exact moment, then you're already in the middle of this test whether you know it or not. Write in the comments if you've felt this uncertainty, this desperate need to know for certain whether what you're experiencing is real or imagined. Because Jung believed that the very act of questioning, when done with genuine self-honesty rather than desperate seeking, is the first stage of the test itself. Let's start with what Jung actually understood about twin flames, because the internet has diluted this concept into something barely recognizable from what he discovered in his deepest work. A twin flame isn't someone who makes you feel good about yourself. It isn't someone who completes you or fills your emotional voids or validates your existence. Jung understood twin flames as two expressions of a single consciousness that separated to undergo what he called the individuation process independently, developing unique aspects of the whole before reuniting to integrate those developments into something greater than either could achieve alone. This means that a true twin flame connection doesn't feel comfortable. It feels apocalyptic. It doesn't make your life easier. It makes everything you thought you knew about yourself obsolete. When you meet your actual twin flame, you don't just fall in love. You fall into a confrontation with every aspect of yourself you've been avoiding, every wound you've left unhealed, every shadow you've kept carefully hidden from your own awareness. The recognition isn't gentle. It's shattering. And if what you're experiencing with this person feels mostly pleasant, mostly validating, mostly comfortable, then Jung would tell you with absolute certainty that whatever you're experiencing, it isn't twin flame recognition. Because here's the first part of the universe's test. It will send you people who feel like twin flames, who activate similar intensities, who create connections that seem profound and destined, specifically to teach you the difference between projection and recognition. Jung called this the anima or animus projection. When you see in another person aspects of yourself that you haven't developed yet, qualities that exist as potential within you, but that you're unconsciously seeking outside yourself. These projections can feel incredibly powerful. They can generate the kind of obsessive attraction that keeps you up at night, that makes you unable to think about anything else, that convinces you this must be the one. But projection and recognition are fundamentally different. Projection is about what you need from the other person. Recognition is about what you see in them that reflects a truth about yourself. Projection makes you feel incomplete without them. Recognition makes you feel more yourself when they're present. Projection creates dependency. Recognition creates expansion. And the universe's first test is determining whether you can tell the difference not intellectually, but in the lived experience of your own nervous system, your own emotional responses, your own patterns of thought and behavior around this person. Think about how you feel when you're with him versus when you're apart. Does his presence make you feel more grounded in yourself or more scattered? Does his attention make you feel more confident in your own worth or more desperate for validation? Do you find yourself becoming more authentic, more honest, more willing to face difficult truths about yourself when he's in your life? Or do you find yourself performing, hiding, trying to be what you think he wants? Jung would say these questions reveal whether you're experiencing projection or recognition, and until you can answer them with brutal honesty, you're not ready to know whether he's your twin flame because you're still operating from need rather than clarity. The universe requires that you develop the capacity to see clearly, without the distortion of your own unmet needs, before it will show you what's actually true. And developing that clarity isn't just about him. It's about becoming conscious of every way you've been unconscious in your patterns of relating, desiring, attaching to outcomes. Now we move into what Jung identified as the second phase of the test. And this is where most people fail, without even realizing they're being tested. Once you've begun to distinguish between projection and recognition, once you've started developing the capacity to see both yourself and the other person with some degree of clarity, the universe introduces obstacles, not random obstacles, specifically calibrated difficulties that touch every wound you've been avoiding, every fear you've been suppressing, every place where your love is still conditional, still transactional, still dependent on external validation. These obstacles come in forms so varied that you might not even recognize them as part of the test. Maybe he lives in another city, another country, making the relationship logistically impossible. Maybe there's an age difference that society judges, that makes you question whether you're deluding yourself. Maybe he's in another relationship, not because he doesn't feel the connection with you, but because he's at a different stage of his own journey, still learning lessons he needs to learn before he's capable of meeting you consciously. Maybe there are cultural differences, family expectations, financial realities that make unions seem utterly impractical. And here's where the test becomes brutal. These obstacles aren't there to stop you from being together. They're there to reveal whether your love for him transcends your need to possess him, whether your recognition of the connection is stronger than your attachment to a specific outcome, whether you can hold the truth of what you feel while simultaneously accepting the reality of what is. Jung observed that most people, when faced with these obstacles, immediately begin trying to remove them. They strategize, manipulate, force conversations, create ultimatums, anything to make the external circumstances match their internal certainty. But this is precisely what fails the test. Because the universe isn't asking whether you can overcome obstacles through force of will. It's asking whether you can love without needing circumstances to validate that love. It's asking whether your recognition of him as your twin flame is dependent on him recognizing you back, on other people acknowledging your connection, on the relationship taking a form that makes logical sense. And until you can release that dependency, until you can hold the truth of what you feel without needing external confirmation or manifestation, the universe will keep the obstacles in place because you're not ready yet for what comes with confirmation. Think about your response to the difficulties in this connection. Do you find yourself becoming bitter, resentful, convinced that if he really was your twin flame, things would be easier? Do you catch yourself giving ultimatums, trying to force clarity, demanding that he make a decision? Or are you learning to hold the paradox, to know what you know while accepting what is, to love him exactly as he is, including his inability or unwillingness to meet you where you want to be met? Jung would say that your capacity to hold this paradox without trying to resolve it prematurely without collapsing into either desperate pursuit or bitter withdrawal is the measure of whether you're passing this phase of the test. And I need you to be honest with yourself right now, not in the comments, but in the quiet of your own heart. When you think about the obstacles between you and him, does part of you secretly believe that if you just try hard enough, love pure enough, wait long enough, he'll finally see what you see? Because that belief, however spiritual it sounds, is actually the ego's attempt to control the outcome. And as long as that's operating, you're not in recognition, you're in need. The third phase of the test is where Jung observed that souls either transform or break, and there's very little middle ground. This is when the universe creates what he called the experience of absolute uncertainty, when every sign you relied on disappears, when the connection that felt so solid starts to feel like a fantasy you invented, when you're forced to maintain faith with zero external evidence that your faith is warranted. This phase isn't just difficult. It's designed to be psychologically destabilizing, to crack open every defense mechanism you have, to force you into a confrontation with your own capacity for self-deception. During this phase, he might start pulling away, not dramatically, not with clear explanations, but with a subtle energetic withdrawal that you can feel but can't quite name. He might become harder to reach, less responsive, more focused on other areas of his life, and you're left wondering whether the connection was ever real, or whether you projected the entire thing. He might start dating someone else, building a life that doesn't include you, posting pictures that show him happy and moving forward while you're still caught in the intensity of what you felt when you were together. And all of this might be absolutely real, actually happening in his external life, not imagined or misperceived. But here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. Sometimes one person in a twin flame connection needs to explore the alternative, needs to try building a life without the other person, needs to experience what it's like to love someone who doesn't activate this particular intensity, specifically so they can discover through direct experience that nothing else touches what they feel with their twin flame. This isn't rejection. This is part of the journey toward conscious choice. Because a twin flame connection, when it finally manifests, cannot be based on need or lack of options. It has to be based on clear, conscious, fully informed choice. So the test for you during this phase is devastating in its simplicity. Can you maintain your inner knowing even when every external indicator tells you you're wrong? Can you trust what you felt in those moments of deepest recognition, even when weeks or months pass without contact? Can you hold the possibility that he is your twin flame, while simultaneously accepting that he might never be ready, never choose you, never develop the consciousness necessary to meet you in this connection? This is what Jung called the transcendent function, the psychological capacity to hold opposites in tension without forcing premature resolution, and he considered it one of the highest achievements of human consciousness. Most people cannot do this. They collapse into either desperate hope, convincing themselves that any day now he'll wake up and realize what they have, or they swing into bitter cynicism, deciding the whole concept of twin flames is delusional nonsense, and they were stupid to believe in it. Both of these responses fail the test because they're attempts to escape the unbearable tension of not knowing. But the test requires that you stay in that tension, that you develop the strength to hold uncertainty without letting it destroy you. And here's what I need you to consider. And please, after this video ends, write down your honest answer to this question, because it will reveal where you actually are in this test. If you found out tomorrow with absolute certainty that he is your twin flame, but that circumstances will never allow you to be together in this lifetime, could you accept that? Could you honor the recognition while releasing attachment to outcome? Could you be grateful for what the connection awakened in you even if union never manifests? Because until you can genuinely answer yes to those questions, the universe will not confirm what you're asking to know. Now we need to talk about something Jung discovered in his work with synchronicity, that most people never connect to the twin flame test, but it's actually the key that unlocks everything. He found that the universe communicates through meaningful coincidences, through patterns that are too precise to be random but too subtle to be obvious. And when you're undergoing the twin flame test, these synchronicities become both more frequent and more confusing, showing up in ways that seem to confirm the connection one moment and deny it the next, leaving you more uncertain than ever about what's real. You might see his name everywhere, hear songs that perfectly capture what you're feeling, dream about him with such vividness that you wake up convinced he was thinking of you, experience moments of knowing where you sense exactly what he's feeling, even though you haven't spoken in months. And then just when you're certain these signs mean something, just when you're ready to trust that the universe is confirming your recognition, everything goes silent. No signs, no dreams, no synchronicities, nothing but empty space and your own thoughts eating you alive with doubt. Jung would tell you this isn't the universe being cruel or playing games. This is the test operating at its deepest level, teaching you to distinguish between genuine intuition and wishful thinking, between true synchronicity and confirmation bias, between the universe's guidance and your own desperate need for validation. Because here's what most people don't understand about synchronicities and twin flame connections. They're not there to tell you what's going to happen. They're there to show you what's being activated within your own consciousness, what aspects of your psyche are awakening, what potentials are being developed through this experience regardless of outcome. Every synchronicity that shows you his name isn't the universe saying he's coming back. It's the universe saying, pay attention. Something significant is happening in your internal world that relates to what he symbolically represents for you. Every dream where you're together isn't a psychic preview of the future. It's your unconscious mind processing the integration work you're doing, showing you aspects of yourself that you're learning to embody through this connection. And when the synchronicities stop, it's not because the connection is ending. It's because you're being asked to develop faith that doesn't depend on external signs, trust that comes from your own inner knowing, rather than cosmic confirmation. This is where people who are actually passing the test diverge completely from those who are failing it. Those who are passing start to notice that their relationship with the synchronicities changes. They stop frantically searching for signs and start observing patterns with curiosity. They stop needing the universe to confirm their feelings and start trusting their own direct experience. They recognize that whether or not he's their twin flame, whether or not this connection manifests, they're becoming someone different through this process, someone with access to dimensions of consciousness they never knew existed. And that transformation, that expansion of who they are, becomes more important than getting the answer they originally sought. Because Jung discovered something profound about the twin flame test. The real question isn't whether he's your twin flame. The real question is whether you're becoming the kind of person who's capable of sustaining a twin flame connection. And that requires developing qualities most humans never achieve in an entire lifetime. Unconditional love without possession, faith without guarantees, surrender without defeat, clarity without certainty. Let's go even deeper into what Jung called the shadow work required by the twin flame test, because this is where the transformation either happens or doesn't, where you either evolve into someone capable of holding this level of connection, or you remain trapped in patterns that will keep repeating until you finally face them. The twin flame, whether he stays or leaves, whether he recognizes the connection or denies it, serves as a mirror showing you every aspect of yourself you've been avoiding. And the test requires that you look into that mirror without flinching, without making excuses, without blaming him for reflecting back what you don't want to see. Maybe what you see is how much of your sense of worth still depends on being chosen by someone you consider special. Maybe you discover that underneath all your spiritual language about soul connections, you're actually trying to use this relationship to fill a void that's been empty since childhood, to get from him the validation your parents never gave you, to prove that you're worthy of the kind of love you've always believed you didn't deserve. Maybe you realize you've been so focused on whether he recognizes you that you haven't been recognizing yourself, haven't been doing the work of becoming whole within yourself, haven't been developing the very qualities you're seeking from him. Jung insisted that shadow work isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming conscious, aware of your own patterns, honest about your own motivations, willing to take responsibility for the parts of you that are operating from wound rather than wisdom. And the twin flame test will keep presenting you with situations that trigger your deepest wounds, your abandonment fears, your rejection trauma, your core belief that you're somehow fundamentally unlovable. Specifically so, you're forced to see these patterns clearly enough to begin healing them. Not for him, for yourself. Think about how you've been showing up in this connection. Have you been authentic, showing him who you really are, including your fears and doubts and imperfections? Or have you been performing, trying to be the version of yourself you think he wants, hiding the parts you believe might make him leave? Have you been honest about what you need, what you want, what you're actually feeling? Or have you been accommodating, agreeable, willing to accept whatever scraps of attention or affection he offers because you're terrified that if you ask for more, you'll get nothing? Jung would say these patterns reveal your relationship with yourself far more than they reveal anything about him. They show where you still abandon yourself to maintain connection with others, where you still believe your needs are too much or inappropriate, where you still haven't developed the capacity to advocate for yourself without apology. And until you heal these patterns, until you become someone who can show up authentically without performing, who can state needs without shame, who can walk away from connections that don't honor them, you're not ready to be in a conscious twin flame union, because you'd bring all this unconscious material into the relationship and it would destroy both of you. So here's the question I need you to sit with, and I want you to journal about this after the video. Be completely honest. No spiritual bypassing. No pretty lies. What wound is this connection activating in you that you've been avoiding your entire life? What childhood pain is being triggered every time he pulls away or doesn't respond or seems to choose someone else? And what would it look like to heal that wound independent of whether he ever comes back, ever recognizes the connection, ever becomes capable of meeting you consciously? Because that healing work, that's what the universe is actually asking of you. Not patience while you wait for him. Transformation while you wait for yourself to become ready. Now we arrive at what Jung considered the most mysterious aspect of the twin flame test, the one that determines not just whether someone is your twin flame, but whether that connection is meant to materialize in physical union during this lifetime. Because here's what Jung discovered that most spiritual teachers either don't know or won't tell you. Not all twin flame connections are destined to manifest as romantic partnerships. Some twin flames meet specifically to awaken each other, to catalyze transformation, to activate dormant potentials, and then they separate so both can integrate those activations independently and bring them into other relationships, other contexts, other expressions of their life purpose. This isn't a consolation prize for when union doesn't happen. This is a legitimate and equally valuable form of twin flame connection. Jung observed that some of the most profound transformations he witnessed in patients came from connections that never materialized into lasting relationships. The person would meet someone who shattered their entire understanding of love and connection, who showed them what was possible, who awakened aspects of consciousness they didn't know existed, and then that person would leave, would become unavailable, would refuse to engage with the depth of what had been activated, and the patient would be left with a choice: collapse into bitterness about what didn't happen, or integrate the transformation and carry it forward into their life regardless. Those who chose integration, who did the work of becoming the person the connection had shown them they could be, those people often went on to create relationships that surpassed what they thought they wanted with their twin flame. Not because they found someone better, but because they had become someone capable of creating and sustaining the level of love and consciousness they once believed required that specific person. They discovered that what they thought was unique to the twin flame was actually a capacity they had developed within themselves, a way of loving, seeing, connecting that they could now bring to any relationship once they learned how. But there are also twin flames who are meant to be together, who have a specific mission that requires their union, who are destined to co-create something in the physical world that can only happen through their partnership. And Jung found that these connections are marked by a very specific phenomenon after both people have passed the test. Obstacles that seemed insurmountable suddenly dissolve. Circumstances that made union impossible inexplicably shift. Opportunities for reconnection appear that feel orchestrated by intelligence far greater than human planning. He called this synchronistic alignment, when the universe itself begins actively creating pathways toward union because both souls have demonstrated they're ready. But, and this is crucial, these synchronicities only appear after the internal work is complete, after both people have developed the maturity, consciousness, and wholeness necessary to sustain a union that operates at this level of intensity and purpose. If you're still desperate for him to come back, still checking his social media obsessively, still fantasizing about reunion, still unable to imagine your life being full and meaningful without him, then you're not ready yet, and the synchronicities won't come, because the universe knows that confirmation would trap you in dependency, rather than support you in conscious co-creation. So the question isn't just whether he's your twin flame. The question is whether you've become someone who's ready for what twin flame union actually requires: the capacity to be completely whole within yourself while choosing to partner with another whole person, the ability to love without needing that love returned in specific forms, the willingness to release control and trust that whatever needs to happen will happen when the timing is right for both souls' highest evolution. Here's what Jung understood about the final stage of the twin flame test that will either free you completely or keep you trapped in illusion. The ultimate question the universe is asking isn't whether he's your twin flame. It's whether you're willing to love him as your twin flame regardless of whether he ever acknowledges it, reciprocates it, or gives you the relationship you want. This is what Jung called unconditional recognition, when you can see and honor the truth of who someone is to you on the soul level while simultaneously releasing all attachment to what that means for your physical reality, your relational status, your future together. This isn't resignation. This isn't giving up. This is the highest form of love humans can achieve, a love that exists independent of circumstances, that doesn't require the other person's participation to remain true, that honors the connection without needing possession. When you reach this state, something extraordinary happens. The desperate seeking stops. The obsessive checking for signs ends. The fantasy spinning about reunion quiets. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you've found a place of such deep internal peace with whatever is that external circumstances lose their power to destabilize you. And this is precisely when the universe often provides the answer you've been seeking, not before, because before you would have used that answer to fuel your attachment, to justify your waiting, to validate your inability to move forward. But now, from this place of genuine release, the answer becomes information rather than salvation, clarity rather than completion. You might discover with certainty that yes, he is your twin flame. And you might simultaneously realize that it doesn't change anything about how you need to live your life right now, about the healing work you need to continue doing, about the wholeness you need to keep developing within yourself. Or you might discover that what you felt, while profound and transformative, wasn't twin flame recognition but rather a powerful catalyst for your own evolution, a soul connection of tremendous importance but different in nature from what you originally believed. And if you've done the work, if you've really passed the test, this revelation won't devastate you because you'll recognize that regardless of the label, regardless of the cosmic significance, that connection transformed you into someone capable of loving at depths most people never access. And that's a gift that remains yours forever independent of his choices or presence in your life. Jung would tell you that the real victory isn't getting him back, confirming he's your twin flame, or manifesting the union you've been visualizing. The real victory is becoming someone who has loved so completely, so unconditionally, so consciously, that you've transformed your own capacity for connection in ways that will impact every relationship you have for the rest of your life. You've learned to love without possession, to recognize without attachment, to honor connection without demanding it take a specific form. And that makes you one of the rare humans who has achieved what Jung considered the highest developmental possibility: individuation through love. If this video has helped you see your situation with new clarity, if you recognize yourself in any stage of this test, I want to invite you to share in the comments what this connection has taught you about yourself, about love, about your own capacity for transformation. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to keep going, to trust their own process, to believe that growth through pain is possible. And if you want to go deeper, please subscribe so we can continue exploring these profound territories of human consciousness together. Share this with someone who's struggling with their own twin flame uncertainty, who needs to know that not knowing isn't failure, but might be the most important part of the journey. Thank you for having the courage to question, to seek truth rather than comfortable answers, to be willing to transform rather than just be confirmed. The person you're becoming through this experience is exactly who you came here to be. Trust that. Trust yourself. And trust that the universe knows exactly what it's doing, even when you can't see the pattern yet.